Welcome to Inspiring Possible. I'm Christy Pennison, former stuck person turned therapist and dream consultant. Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, uncertain, or just need a little inspiration? Then I want to help you gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to create possibilities and live a life you love. Because folks, life's too short to be miserable. Hello and welcome back, Inspiring Possible listeners. I am so excited that you have chosen to give a little bit of your time, energy, and attention to the podcast again today. If this is your first time listening, welcome. You're in for a real treat. But if you're a return person who, tries to listen and get some inspiration for your day, welcome back. And, guys, I'm very fortunate to not only be able to do this podcast, but also to get to talk to really incredible people that really have some inspiring stories that hopefully will inspire you along life. And today is no different. So I'm really excited to welcome Robin Kinsale, who she is very multi-talented. I'm going to let her tell a little bit of her story in a second, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Not only is she a top luxury real estate agent and broker, she's also a spiritual director, which, Robin, we didn't talk about this, but I have some spiritual director friends and have participated in spiritual direction myself, and it's been really helpful for me during different stages of life. But she's also a mom and a wife, and she's a competitive ballroom dancer, which I can't wait to hear more about. And right now, she is Miss Connecticut Senior America, and she knows that there is power in chasing your dreams. And so today, hopefully, she'll be able to share some insights about what's helped her chase hers. So maybe you can chase yours. So welcome, Robin.
Christy, thank you so much for having me. I just love your topic and your focus.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit. I'm curious to know a little bit about your story of what led you to now even be in Miss Connecticut Senior America, because that's really cool.
Thank you so much. It has been so much fun. Quite honestly, that was never on my radar. And actually, one of my clients in real estate was preparing for a pageant, and she's in her 30s, wonderful gal. And I was watching her journey. And because I am a competitive ballroom dancer, I'm always looking for things that could help me improve my performance self and improve my presence on the stage. And it's really from that I thought, well, let me just see if there's something for women over 60. And I liked this particular pageant. It's in the Miss America. It follows the Miss America format, but it's a little bit different in important ways. So it's for women over 60, and you are judged in 4 areas. 30% of your scoring is your interview with the judges. And you submit an application, but anything could be asked. Fluff or tough questions. And there's probably 6 judges in the room. So that's 30%. And then 30% is your talent. And interestingly, ballroom was not allowed until actually this year. Yeah, no.
Okay, it was allowed this year.
No
Okay.
partner. But last year, Miss America decided to have ballroom because there's no way you could be a ballroom dancer and not have your partner with you. It's all about weight exchange and creating these shapes together. So this will be the first year. I'm so thrilled to have my fabulous pro with me. So 30% is on talent. 20%, and this is my favorite part, but my hardest part, is you give your philosophy of life. But Christy, you have to do it in 35 seconds. So
Okay.
I challenge all your viewers and yourself to try to come up with what your philosophy of life is. And
Can we hear yours?
so what I will say about mine is, here's the ending of mine. The ending of mine is a quote from Mother Teresa that I just live by. Mother Teresa had said, all people will not be able to do great things, but every person can do small things with great love. And just think of the power of that statement every day. And it's funny, there was a time in my life where I thought I was going to be in the political arena, influencing many, many people. And at the end of the day, my world is sometimes in a day working with one person, doing one thing that might leave the world a little bit different than had I not been in that place. And that's true for all of us. We all can do small things, but with great love. And what does that mean? That's such a nebulous word. And, we all have a different meaning, but I try to go for the kindness. And obviously it's not easy to be kind every minute. Just get in your car, right? Yeah.
Okay. So that was 30. You said 30%?
20%. And then the last 20% is the gown walk. And that is not about the gown you have chosen, the way you've done your hair and makeup. That's about how you carry yourself. What do you exude? What's a vibe you're giving the judges and the audience? And every piece of it is really fun and takes preparation. And what I love about it, Christy, is because I'm representing Connecticut, it's really tasked me to think about how can I encourage and support women over 60? And how can I turn around and speak back to younger women and share my wisdom? Because that's what I'm tasked with. And so that has led to podcasts like this and really talking about what's the purpose of our life? Where do we find meaning? And what are those pillars of aging?
Well, let's dive into that because this sounds like you know what you don't ever think about when you really think about pageantry, the amount of, like you said, work, preparation. You have to reflect on how do I want to present
Yeah,
myself, what skills do I have to offer the world, and then how can I give back. But what have you found, or what has helped you along life's journey to really discover what purpose meant for you?
yeah. So look it, for me, I was just that individual that I was from a very young age, just, knew God. We lived literally down a bunch of steps from our church, and so for me, my childhood friends and I played in the church. The church and God and all that was very one with my life. That's not everybody's experience, but what I would say is whatever you're calling the thing that's most important in your life, whether it's the divine, whatever it is, it's not gonna be cultivated unless you give it time. It's just like a friendship. So giving it time, and one of the most important practices for me is, it's called centering prayer, but just centering and quiet time and devoting myself every day. I am not a good meditator. I mean, I admire people who can do the 20 minutes twice a day. That's not me. I'm a mover. But I can do a walking time alone. I can do 10 minutes in the morning. But for me, it starts with that quietness and always thinking throughout the day, am I serving what I'm believing in? Am I serving what I think is most important? It gets to be after a while you don't even think about it. It's funny in ballroom dance, you train very hard, very specific technique. But there comes a moment where the technique is in your muscle memory. And then you're doing it, you're not thinking about it. And your purpose can be like that. It becomes so ingrained in who you are that you're not thinking every moment. It's just part of who you are.
Yeah, so it almost sounds like even for you, for the spiritual practices that you do every day, those are now just a part of who you are, like the
Yeah,
quiet or the reflection or the
yeah,
figuring out where do I feel like I'm being led in this moment is just kind of it sounds like
yeah,
what's helped get you to where you're at today.
yeah. That's very true.
Now, I was just curious about when did that practice start for you? And has there been periods of your life where it's been challenging to continue it?
I think the hardest times are the times you probably need it most. So there have been, like most of us, been really dark periods in my life, dark periods with huge challenges, health, family members, I mean, work. And those periods I get so sometimes you can get so involved in the doing and the fixing and the problem solving that you forget, wait a second, if I just continue with what I know helps serve me, it just makes it so much better because it gives you a different perspective. You start looking at it differently, that maybe it's not the problem that you need head on. Maybe it's the way you're looking at the problem. And I find that attitude and perspective are so important. But when you're in the fire, sometimes it's hard to have that attitude and perspective. But if you can pull yourself back and just take a moment to let it all settle and go to whatever it is you go to and come back and say, I've got to look at this with different eyes.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I asked you that question because, I've been reflecting on my own life recently, right? And exactly what you said, I'm like, what practices have helped ground me, even in
Yeah.
some really more challenging times and it's ebbed and flowed for me, but I'm really setting intention to get back to my own quiet space during the day.
Yeah.
And for me, it's journaling a lot of times and
Oh,
maybe like
that's
you said,
great.
walking as well. But it's hard to settle again back into that
Yes.
rhythm of that habit when, like you said, you're used to doing, fixing, what fire am I putting
Yes.
out, right? To reprioritize the stillness and the reflective periods to kinda help you focus on, like, where am I feeling led to go next? Or how can I look, like you said, perspective reframing, how can I look at this different? And how, if I'm really in a not great attitude or foul mood, how can I cultivate some kind of gratitude and appreciation in a different way?
Yeah.
So,
So let me add on 2 things to that. I think it's interesting that apparently we have like 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them are repetitive thoughts. So, what would help you have a new thought, a new experience, a new noticing? And I think a good practice, if you want to call it practice, or just thing to think about is I'm going out my front door to my car. Can I notice 3 new things that I didn't even realize were there? Or I'm going into a new situation. What were 3 things that I noticed? When you start learning how to notice things, then I think you have the opportunity to look at things differently. So you're not tracking the same thoughts in your mind and you're not going down that same path. The other thing, which might seem counterintuitive, but I don't know, it works for me, is after a while, I get into that exhaustion of, the quiet stuff. And it's actually the opposite that then helps give me a different way of looking at what the purpose is. And for me, it's anything physical. Like dance is my ultimate joy. Ballroom, musical theater, improv acting, just that sort of thing just gives me new input and new ways to feel myself and feel the world. And that new input often leads me to thinking about new things.
when did you get into competitive ballroom dancing? I'm just curious. At
So
what age did you get involved in that?
Okay, so here's what happened. I was that sort of kid who had, the old the old point shoes up on my bedroom poster wall. I was tap ballet and jazz when I was 4 or 5, and then it went away for a while. Then a high school picked up, I got to college, and, there were women hadn't been at Georgetown very long, so I started modern dance with a professor and got into disco and modern and liturgical dance, and I love dance. Went to grad school, I had no time to dance. And when I was raising the kids, there's no time. But I was at the gym one morning and the guy on the elliptical next to me said, "How come you don't dance anymore?" I'm like, "Yeah, I need to dance." He goes, "That guy over there is doing ballroom. Why don't you talk to him?" And I got to the ballroom world and they saw that I love to perform. And next thing you knew, I was open to this whole new world that I didn't even know existed, that Christy is so huge. Any weekend you could go see really fantastic ballroom dancing in many cities. I mean, it's a huge industry.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just some random encounter. I'm at the
Yep.
gym trying to work out, do something, and that kind of reignited your love for dance to put you back into a place that you're like,
Well,
yeah, let's do that.
Well, he gave me an idea. I mean, that's a classic example. You're in a different stage of life. You're thinking, okay, I can't dance anymore because dance represented being with a group or being in a certain place in time. And just someone opening me to something I hadn't thought about opened a brand new world to me. And by the way, it's a really fun world along with improv because I'm around younger people. So a lot of my friends are just a lot younger than I am.
So that probably gives you a different perspective. Well, and I'll be honest with you, it is crazy. It's just like sometimes just being open to open to new ideas that might push
Yeah.
you past a little bit of your comfort zone or maybe something you've never tried before. And like you said, it's the noticing that kind of can maybe expand your idea of what's possible kind of for you in whatever stage it is. Well, to that point, I know you're passionate about just kind of trying to encourage and empower women how to find purposes in the different stages of life.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to anybody that maybe is transitioning to a new stage or chapter in their life, and maybe they find that they're lacking direction that they might once have had
Yeah.
in what they were doing?
Yeah. And, if they're fortunate enough that the transitioning is a slow process where they can be very intentional about that process, that's great. And we'll talk about that. But there's, of course, also the transitioning that you don't have control over. I mean, my dad died unexpectedly at 60. We owned a nursing home that never closes. My mother had to just change her entire life and start running the nursing home while she was grieving. So sometimes the transition is very abrupt and you're just hanging on. And then when you get a little bit of, okay, I can take a tiny bit of a gulpy breath, then hopefully you've got people around or you're seeking resources that can help you gather yourself to a place where you can, start to have your new normal? If you're not in that situation and you are either kids are leaving the home, going to college, kids are no longer at home and they're starting kindergarten, or you're, getting your retirement. So that is nice because you actually have time. And I would say it's a very specific process, unless there's been something in the back of your mind your entire life that you keep saying, when these kids aren't around 24/7, I'm going back to this. That's
Yeah.
nice, because that right? Because then you just kinda know, that's the it that I've been waiting for.
Well,
But
Robin,
I'll
mine's at teenage years, so I'm getting close to that point, you know what I mean? And so it's like,
yeah,
not responsible for another human being.
yeah, how nice is that? But if you don't have something specific in your mind, then it's a whole process of figuring out what you're good at, what you enjoy, and what is the meaning of life for you, that at the end of your time, when you are no longer here, what do you wanna be able to say, "That's what I wanted to leave behind." That's the mark I wanted to make. And, some people are just very reflective people and can figure out how to do it alone. But some people, I think this is where a life coach or a particular kind of therapist could be helpful. And having you take some tests, if that's something that will give you insight to yourself or helping you think it through.
Yeah, I've actually been having a conversation with one of my family members recently because they're kind of just hitting one of those what I call phases of life where there's dissatisfaction in an area of
Yes.
life where you're like, this may have worked for me in the past. This is not really working for me anymore, but this is all I know. So how do I
Hmm.
change? And, I've obviously lended them some listening ears and some, guidance. But at the same time, too, what I've told them is because I am your family or friend, I'm not going to be able to give you the direction, guidance, help you really maybe work through some things because I'm going to have an opinion about
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have found incredible value in having people help ask me questions that I would have never thought to ask myself or help me explore things that I wouldn't have necessarily explored on my own or pushed me into places or given me those ideas because I can think about some of my journey. Some ideas I've had has just been over conversation with somebody else that's like, hey, have you ever
Yeah.
thought about this? And it might not have, clicked right away, but months down the road, I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe I do need to think about this. So, I appreciate that you said, like, sometimes it's getting somebody to help you with that because unless you're
Yeah.
a naturally reflective person, unless you just love reading all these kind of self-help discovery books of finding meaning in certain stages of life, sometimes another person can really help bring things out of you that you didn't realize that.
And you know what I love that you talked about is people who are just asking you questions, the questions that can provoke you to think in ways you wouldn't think yourself. My dance pro Demo will often say after he's told me 50,000 times to do something a certain way, and it keeps ending up being the old way, he'll say, "You know what? Just pick something different, anything different." And just picking the anything different that feels like this is such a weird way to do that, at least brings you to a different point. And it's the same thing when you've got someone who's really skillful at asking you questions that will get you to start uncovering the things within yourself.
Yeah, and they might not even know that the question that they're asking is yielding that reflective process
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah.
But it can be transformative. You know what? I can think about, I don't know if you've experienced this, but there's been some stuck places in my own
Yeah.
life. And I think the only thing that actually helped me change my perspective was somebody asking me a question are pushing me to take an action that I really didn't think that I could or should take. And then that just changes everything. But it's sometimes hard for you to do that for yourself. So I'm curious, Robin, for your journey, who has helped you kind of be able to maybe reconceptualize where you want to
Yeah.
go, what you want to do next, things like that
Yeah.
for your own life?
Yeah. So, I guess the people who come to my mind is I am really fortunate. I have an amazing Jesuit priest who is my own spiritual director. And he's the one who listens. We're not going in and talking about God every moment. He's asking, like, so what's going on in your life? What's top of your mind? And he's listening to these things. And you know what? It helps me realize when there's something going on at work that I need to make an adjustment. When there's something, it could be any aspect of my life. So, I mean, Father Jerry is front and center, but I'm also really fortunate that I have a 40-year marriage And honestly, it was just a combination of, good dumb luck, and there was some shared values there, right? And mutual respect. But my husband is a lot of the times my sounding board and vice versa.
Yeah, so I guess well, and look, Father Jerry, if you're listening, is that what you said his name is Father Jerry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you need those people in your life, and you need people, like you said, even your husband, who know you so well
Yeah.
that when they see you kind of going in a certain direction, that they know it's maybe not the best for your own sake, that they can then at least maybe hold a space for you until you're able to, come to your own conclusions about maybe what next steps you can take, yeah.
Yes, and Christy, having said that, and I don't think you need a lot of people in your life, you need a couple, but even having said that, the third person is someone who recently passed away, and she was a therapist that really walked beside me since our children were quite young. And it wasn't a once a week, it was like, "Oh god, I really don't know how to deal with these kids," or "I really don't know how to deal with this friend." And then, I would sit down with Sally. So, having someone who's a professional, which we did just speak about, to me is also really critical because, as you said, a family member has a perspective, but a therapist actually has the training to help you see things in a very objective way.
Yeah, and especially like you said, and what a I mean, I'm sorry to hear that about her passing, but what a cool experience,
Oh,
especially it
yeah.
sounds like for you to have met somebody at that stage in life when you had your kids it's still at home, and then for her to
Yeah.
walk the journey with you through that
Yeah.
life. I mean, that probably was a very special relationship for you.
Oh, yeah, it really was. I mean, a 35-year relationship, really lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so I guess what I'm hearing you say is don't be afraid to get some help
Yes.
from
Yes.
somebody that they might, whether, like you said, even whether it be a therapist or even like a life coach or whoever it is, or a priest or spiritual director to get perspective about where you're feeling led. And it's interesting. I know you were trained to become a spiritual director, and we kind of mentioned that earlier, but kind of like I had shared, there was a period of time where I had somebody that knew somebody else who was going through their classes to become, and they were like,
Yes.
"Well, we need to work with somebody." And I was like, and I was at a place in time in my own spirituality where I was like, I'm really feeling more disconnected from God, and I
Yeah.
really want to reconnect. And I'm also having to make some big decisions about some things that I really want to make
Mhm.
sure that I feel like I'm being led in a certain direction. And that season, that spiritual director was super helpful for me to really, again, just no judgment, hold a space and
Yeah.
ask questions and then actually kind of make me sit with it, to kind of
Yes.
identify like what I felt I was being called to do or what I felt like I was hearing from God in those moments. And it was a really incredible special experience. So I know this wasn't the direction we were trying to go in this conversation, but I guess what I'm hearing from us talking is that when you are trying to rediscover purpose and meaning, and kind of like you said, what are the things that I want to do in my next phase of life? Having the different components of people that maybe can give you those different perspectives can really be a game changer.
So, first of all, thank you for doing a fabulous synopsis of spiritual direction, which the words alone, sometimes I think people are like, whoa, that sounds scary. But, you also made me think about something else when you said the word discernment, because we've been talking about people around us, scaffolding us, helping us to figure the next step out. But the other piece is just, as you said, the sitting and discerning. Now, in the Ignatian tradition, St. Ignatius Loyola loved using the imagination. So he would have you, if you have a big decision, imagine yourself in each of the different decisions and sit with that. See how that feels. So that's one other tool you can use as you're figuring out your big decision. The other thing is, it's a beautiful thing to be able to try things. Honestly, when I was graduating from college, I thought I was going to be a nun. I went and lived with the nuns and I discovered I'm way too ill behaved. I do not follow rules all the time. That's not going to be what
That
happens.
was not your calling, is what I'm hearing you say.
That was not my calling.
But you
No,
tried it. But you
I
tried
tried
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what that is? I think, I'm actually reading a book very sporadically right now, and it's by the author, and I never get it right, that wrote The Artist Way. I think her name is, gosh, I don't know, but it's actually about creative wisdom, and is very
Oh,
spiritual. Her experience with, I guess, God and her path on that, and She makes you journal. She doesn't make you,
Yes.
just suggests that you
Yes, yes.
journal so many pages a day and things of that nature. But, she actually gives a challenge in that workbook that she has, that kind of helps people just look at their spirituality and how that can bring up creativity. And her thing is once a week doing, I can't remember if she calls it a creative date or a something kind of thing where you get out of your normal habits or patterns and you do something different. And
Yeah.
you set an intention around what is that going to be different. And it could be going to a coffee shop I've never been to before,
Right.
or it could be trying this, new skill or hobby that I wouldn't not necessarily probably do. And
Yeah.
just giving yourself that opportunity to try new things. And I don't know about you, but I can think about other people in my life that are maybe at a little bit later stage than I'm at. I think it becomes harder sometimes to really put yourself into trying new things because you get so used to ways things are, and it's not everybody, but what encouragement would you give, or what do you do in your life to try new things? Because I
Yeah.
guess this, like you said, even the Miss America thing was not something that was on your
Yeah.
radar,
No, no, it wasn't on my radar.
as a life goal.
And
Yeah.
let me tell you, there's a lot of scariness. You're putting yourself out on a stage for people to judge you, just like ballroom. I mean, it's not comfortable. From the outside, it might look pretty, but not. But here's what I would say. So last year, I was at the United States Dance Championships, and I broke my foot in the final rounds. 2 weeks later, the pageant was supposed to happen. I obviously could not compete. I couldn't dance. I couldn't even, walk around. And so I said to myself after a half a day of going, gosh, that's just such bad luck. Why me? Why not me? I decided, all right, I'm going to pick three things that have either been on my mind or I think I should do. And the three things were pick up Mahjong because my 92-year-old mother and my daughter were playing it. Try singing. My husband, for fun, is in a band and he's a phenomenal singer. And if I could be anything, I probably would love to be a singer. And try acting. And so, I worked my way to this amazing choreographer and acting coach in New York City who got me hooked into improv. It is a world I would never be in. I'm with people I would have never met. He is unbelievable. And the transferable skills from improv into life are you just can't even believe. But so I would say, listen, something might happen that will force you, or maybe you're in something and just say to yourself, what are three things that I actually want to do? It turns out, even with singing lessons, my whole family said, stop singing. Like, you're not going to be a triple threat.
Yeah.
So it's
No, it
okay
can
to
be so much
fail.
fun even there. I just
Yeah.
got back from a little short trip and we went into this karaoke place and it was so fun. I'll be honest with you. I
Yeah.
don't know if it was the vibe or the karaoke guy, but he would just encourage people to come up and there were some people excellent singers. Some
Yeah.
people maybe not so much. But it was fun to see them at least go and express themselves. Nobody, or at least I don't think anybody, I wasn't thinking like, golly, please, get off the stage, It was just fun to see
Yeah.
them try in their element in a fun environment where they were just giving it their best shot and having a good time. So I think sometimes that fear of judgment you said can maybe stop us from doing things because we feel like maybe somebody's going to judge us negatively. And if they do, that's on them. That's their own stuff. But it sounds like
You
you've
have,
pushed yourself in those uncomfortable places. Yeah.
yeah, you have just hit what I hear is one of the two reasons that keep people from trying new things and staying in their nice little, safety zone is right, fear of failure. So what? Took Thomas Edison thousands and thousands of experiments to discover the light bulb. We've all heard that. So what? Learn to laugh at yourself. I laugh at myself so often. So that's one thing. And then the other thing I hear is people say, well, everything costs so much money. I don't have the money. But you know what? If you're resourceful, everything doesn't cost money. In improv, for example, you could take private lessons or you can go take a group class for literally $5. You can't even get a Starbucks for $5. So
You
I
can.
yeah, so I don't know that necessarily money would always be the reason why you can't try something. But I hear that it's just that you've got to take some time and do some research.
Well, and like you said, and you have to kind of back it out a little bit, right? Like sometimes if you're maybe saying that, I really want to try this new thing. Yeah, there's this high level 101. You can get direction and from the best person out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be expensive. It's probably not going to be
Yeah.
cheap because they've developed their skills over years and
Yeah.
that's how they make their money. But there is so many, like you said, community, sometimes events you can go to, community
Mhm.
workshops. I mean, I've seen things. This is a place that not many people go these days, but the library
Oh,
used to
yeah,
have
the
so many
library's
events,
awesome.
you know, or
Yeah.
even colleges sometimes allow you to go and do, what is it called? Auditing different classes that
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how often that happens these days, but I mean, I remember I used to get the paper, the local, like, it was like a
Right.
local, not the actual paper, but it was like a community paper. And I was actually just flipping through one that we have here, and there's events and they're all over that are all different kinds of things from like
Yeah.
cooking to exploring the nature
Right.
outside, or, so you really could. The sky's the limit. It's just trying to open up something you said earlier, your imagination that I think is harder to sometimes tap into when you're not used to using it to say, if I could do anything or if I could try anything or how can I expose myself to different opportunities to do these different things, so
So you might have people who are listening to us and going, "Oh, that sounds like so much work." But here's what I would say. Just take one little thing that might be of interest and just poke around on that. It's just like when you start looking at the pillars of aging and people go, "Oh, I'm not feeling like I felt at 20." It's like take one aspect and just take little micro steps. If you take micro steps, you're not going to fail. It's when you try to take big leaps, of course you're going to fall because you haven't done all the pre-work to work your way up to the bigger leap.
yeah, well, and you bring up a good idea I have. I mean, there is a, CrossFit type gym that I go to, okay,
Mhm.
Robin? And, certain people of certain age would be like, "I can't do that." But we have a group of women who are at least I think they're probably range from, like, mid-60s, probably up to, like, mid-80s. I kid you not, okay? But they go and they give themselves permission. They're not trying to be CrossFit
Yeah.
athlete. I mean, I don't try to be CrossFit athlete when I go.
Yeah.
I'm, like, trying to
Yeah.
just move for a certain period of time, and
Yeah.
I
Call
will
it a
not
day.
ever be in any competition, I can assure you that. Okay, but it's fun for me. There's community around that.
Yeah.
There's like challenges and I'm like, "Oh, you want me to do what?" Mindset's
Yeah.
telling me no today, but I'm gonna try. But it's incredible to watch these women because they'll come
Yeah.
and they'll still participate and they'll still do the workout, but they will do it at a step that feels good to them, right? They're whether it be modifying an exercise or doing something a little bit differently, or I even talked with one of them the other day and they're like, "I'm just here to move. I'm just here to move," But it still is challenging. It's something new, especially for those that hadn't done it for a long time. And so I think that gives me an example of that. You're never at a certain point where you can't at least try something, even if you think it's not for you. It actually could be, but it's those small steps. Like you said,
Yeah.
just pick one thing and
Yeah.
just go show up. I think that's the hardest thing too, is at least getting there. Because I think at most points, if you can at least get yourself there, it may not be as bad as in your mind
Yeah,
may
so I
not
wanna
be.
talk about one thing that I think relates to this. So I was directed to a interview that Christy Brinkley gave recently, and I'm telling you, I fell so in love with her because she talked all about just being comfortable with who she is. I don't have to prove anybody to anybody. I don't have to be on any cover anymore. I just really am comfortable with where I'm at. Like just getting comfortable with I'm not old. I'm just aging. But guess what? We're all aging since the minute we were born. So just being comfortable and getting comfortable with, the fact that this is what it is today. And I think those CrossFit women over 60, they probably have figured that out. I don't have to go knock myself out like those people who
I don't
are
have to compete with the
sweating.
20-something-year-olds that are over there,
No.
doing acrobats on the pole on the, the bar.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, listen, I was around when Jane Fonda was really big, and I remember taking the Jane Fonda classes and the step classes. And honestly, Christy, I'm so happy that I no longer have to do those anymore.
Yeah. Well, and to your point about that podcast interview, I think this is something that I don't know. I don't know if I've always realized it, and I think I'm still learning this, but like you can choose how you want to live.
Yeah.
It is your choice, and I think we grow up sometimes believing there's these certain set of conditions that we need to meet or expectations, or I should live a life this way because that's how everybody else is living. But you really can do you.
And I recognize that we all come with our history, and there, may have been people in our history that were not giving us confidence and self-esteem. And I
Mhm.
recognize that many people have gone through, not good stuff that has also affected their confidence and self-esteem. But I think there we got to go back to, yeah, it's not magic. If you can't start getting that yourself, then you got to bring in people to help you because we're all made really special and we're all here for a reason. So, some of us have just been banged up a lot around along the way and maybe just need someone to help them get right side up.
Well, and I'm glad that you bring that up because, and I'm sure you've had this experience in parenting. But if you are a parent, and even if you're not, you could probably relate to this, but you realize along the journey that your child is different than you, right? Like sometimes
Yeah,
you think this child's going to come out and be the same,
right.
because, it comes from, me.
Yeah.
But the reality is we're all so different. And, one of the things that I've been really reflecting on a lot right now in this parenting journey is that, we all have the different strengths and abilities. And I just used to think that me getting up and having, like you said, more confidence and trying things or whatever, that don't everybody just want to jump off a cliff
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
see if they, fall
Or
in the
start a
water or hit a
podcast.
rock? You know, exactly. And what I've realized is that, wait, for some of us, based off your experience, so I'm glad that you brought this up, it can be harder, or your self esteem could have been torn down so low past of different experiences that you might have had. Or you may believe that it's possible for this person over here, but it's not possible for you. And I'm glad that you honor that because I do think that maybe you have a
Yeah.
little bit bigger hurdle to cross over in rebuilding that. But like you said, it is possible. It's just taking those steps to say, how can I start betting on me or trusting in myself or believing that I
Yeah.
can maybe do things.
Yeah. And you do bring up the parenting, and let's just spend a moment on that because I do see, there are some parents who think that, okay, I'm going to relive through my child. And if they are having a bad, sports game, then, oh my gosh, that's a reflection on me. And A, how unfair to the child. I mean, as you said, they all come out the way they come out. And
They are.
to me, the fun of it is when I figured out, wait a minute, I just need to figure out who this little person is and parent to that person to help them develop the best they can be. It's not anything to do with a reflection of me. Okay, I was dying a few times when, there were actions in the public space and I was like, oh boy, that's a reflection of me, but not really. Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta just keep a good sense of humor, but back to the point of just really remember, this is not about you. This is about you providing something to another human being.
Yeah. And it's so true. And that whole parenting journey can really be full of ups and downs. But I
Yeah,
think you're right. I think it's accepting that this child that has fell down towards me has its unique skills, abilities,
yeah,
and ways of experiencing the world, and even how vastly the world changes, right? And their
yeah,
experience of that, I think shifts over time. But it's how can I remember they're them, I'm me, and how can I just
yeah.
learn to love them better and be a better support for them to reach their full potential, not the potential I think they should make, but the
I mean,
potential for
really well
themselves. Yeah.
said. Really well said.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, Robin, this has been so much fun just talking with you today. If people are like, "Look, this Robin chick, I like her and I wanna maybe connect with her and learn more about her," or I know that she's really trying to help people maybe rediscover what their purpose is no matter what stage and phase that they are in life. How can people connect with you?
I think the easiest way right now is just go through Instagram at Robin
Okay.
Kinsale and just message me. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here to be helpful. I loved talking to you, Christy.
Yeah, well, it was a super fun conversation. Well, and I have one final question for you, Robin. If you were go back to younger you, because I know you're big about also empowering the generations behind you, and you were to give maybe younger you one piece of advice or a word of encouragement, is there anything that you would wanna tell the younger version of yourself?
I probably would go back to my early parenting younger self, and I would say, I know it's all serious, but don't take it so serious. Honestly, a little hiccup here or there with your 7-year-old, it's not going to matter. I mean, I see so many parents getting so invested in every grade and every this and everything. No, just set a good example, love them to death, be encouraging, be supportive, really all the things you said. So I think,
Yeah.
I really took it very seriously, but I think my older self would say, yeah, I got to just enjoy them a little more.
Yeah, but it is hard when you're wanting to do this parenting thing. One
Oh,
thing I'll
yeah.
reframe about that seriousness is probably because you wanted to be a great parent, and you wanted to
Yeah.
parent well.
Yeah.
So, and nobody gives you a manual on that
No,
parenting business.
no.
But so I guess what you're saying though for yourself is like just be more present and give yourself some
Yeah.
grace is,
Yeah.
in those
Yeah. I
moments.
love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Give myself
Mhm.
some grace. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. But when you want to do good, you just want to raise good human beings and
Exactly.
that can be challenging. So if you're raising human beings right now, just give yourself permission, that it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, Robin, I just want to acknowledge you so much for honestly going and trying new things yourself, and redefining what is meaning for you along the way and really being able to help other people along this path through everything that you're doing through service to others and really just encouraging the next person along the way to find purpose where they're at. Because sometimes we can find purpose for ourselves and then we just hoard it. But
Oh,
you took it
yeah.
a step further and said, "How can I also extend this, to other people?" So I appreciate you taking the time to come and share with our listeners today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Christy. It's really been a joy. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and you listeners, y'all know I'll leave y'all with one little nugget of advice if you've been here before. And I think one thing I'm hearing from Robin, and she may have not said this directly, but she had written this down somewhere that I'd read. It's never too late, folks. It is never too late to reimagine your life, rediscover purpose for your
Mm.
life, try new things, and really be able to live life with meaning and a meaning that aligns with you. And so, no matter where you're at today, I hope you just remember that it's never too late. Until next time.
That's all for today on Inspiring Possible. If you found a little inspiration today, please go on over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen to leave us a comment and rate us. Also, make sure and link up with me at inspiringpossible.com to get the free Dream It, Write It, Do It workbook. And don't forget to follow us on social media and share this with anyone who needs to be inspired. Remember, if you can believe it, it's possible.